representing Great Britain, Nicola Adams.
Attar from Saudi Arabia getting a big reception here.
Natalie Toit making her long-awaited debut here in Beijing.
First ever refugee Olympic team led out by Lokonyen. What a sight.
In the pursuit of greatness, there are no shortcuts, no easy paths. It's often said that it is the sweat, tears, and unwavering determination of those who toil that get the glory. But for these firsts, it is not just talent that propels them forward, but a purpose that goes beyond the podium. In this second instalment of The Green Room, Bigger Questions, we step into the arena of perseverance, adversity, and courage, looking at the ups and downs that led them to their firsts. Episode 2, Doing the Hard Yards. From an unexpected twist of fate that led her to boxing, through the smoke-filled gyms of her youth to the pinnacle of Olympic glory, two things have defined Nicola's journey: determination and a sense of humour.
It's really hard training being a boxer. I think people think you just go in there, you hit a bag a few times and everything's fine. But it's once you start punching the bag, you realise, this actually takes a lot of work and concentration. And I guess the difference is when you're punching the bag, the bag's not even punching you back. So.
From a young age, Nicola was no stranger to hard work. As the only girl in a gym full of boys, she didn't just train, she thrived. Every session was a whirlwind of activity, pushing her limits.
The training when I was younger was a lot different to when you then get onto boxing for England and Team GB, where everything's quite spread out. I was just literally sparring and training alongside the boys, which was good for me because it made me, faster, sharper, and stronger as well. When you're training just for your club, they try to do basically everything in one session. So you'll do a run, you'll do strength and conditioning, and you'll do your boxing all in one night. To do boxing, you'll train as a swimmer, you'll train as a sprinter, you train as a weightlifter. Like, it's crazy. You do all these sports just to do boxing.
Despite the days, months, and years of training, there was one issue that couldn't be overcome in the gym.
After my first fight when I was 13, I didn't have another fight until I was 17. And there was such a big gap because it was hard, one, finding female fighters and then finding them at the right age to be able to fight. And then also you had to factor in the weight class as well. It was very, very difficult. But once I turned 17 and I was senior, I was able to really kick things off and start boxing regularly then.
But the challenges didn't stop there. It wasn't until 1998, just a year before Nicola turned senior, that the British Boxing Board of Control issued its first professional licence to a woman. This meant there was no established pathway to going pro, no institutional support, and scarce financial backing.
The lack of funding as a female boxer before boxing became an Olympic sport was really, really bad. We went away to China to a World Championships and we weren't given any competition kit. We had one kit, two kits because you get a red and a blue corner. We had those two kits to share between 10 fighters and it was like crazy. They expected you to go away, win medals and perform your best. And they couldn't even give us the decency of having our own competition kit. It was unbelievable, especially when you saw the men go away and they had absolutely everything, competition kit, all the coaches that you could think of and need. And we'd be lucky if we went away with one coach that was actually a national coach and not one of our club coaches.
Fighting for funding alongside intense training, demanding not just physical strength, but immense mental fortitude. A sport with a similarly tough regime and need for dedication by its athletes is swimming. While Nicola was looking for her next fight, halfway across the world, Natalie Toit was also putting in the hard yards needed to become one of the greats.
up until the age of 12, I was doing 5 one-hour sessions a week. So it was grueling, but it was fun. We had competitions every month. And here in Cape Town, we didn't really have indoor swimming pools. So we used to have the big southeaster winds that blow through and the cold. But that was what we did, because that was what we needed to do to be a swimmer.
Natalie excelled in the youth galas and before long was entered into senior competitions with the help of a new coach.
I moved coaches when I was 14 and I actually moved to Karoli.
I am Karoli von Törös. I am Hungarian, but also South African citizen. And I was Natalie's coach for many, many years. And also I was Olympic coach for South Africa. And Natalie came in my life, started to train with me. And she was a humble child and very talented and a very hard worker. With Natalie, we did so many hard years. And she was number one in the world of her age group. She was always number one in my training, always ahead of the boys. She challenged the boys. She was a very tough girl.
Karoli, along with Natalie's parents, would do whatever it took to help this young talent achieve her goals.
In hindsight, I know my parents always say that they tried to do the best for us. And for me, it was not always the easiest road. Like, my parents couldn't afford a lot of our tours. We had a lot of people that helped in paying for tours. I know Karoli, in the beginning didn't charge me coaching fees, but he really believed in me as a swimmer. And, it's all those things that I think line up that are the support system. So, there was always a ways and means.
Armed with tenacity and a new coach, big things were on the horizon.
I started training with Karoli, and that's the first time that I made my first international team for a senior team. And we went off to the Commonwealth Games in Kuala Lumpur. And, being 14, what do you know about traveling? What do you know about really competing against 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds? You're there, it's your first senior competition, you're so nervous. And he really was, that focus point. I think from that moment, you have a special bond. He can see how your body looks in the water. He can see, what you look like. I think from that, it is an important step to trust. To trust the coach and to trust the programs. And we had such an amazing squad that just culminated and brought everything together.
But for Natalie, a life-changing event was about to alter her journey forever. In February 2001, an accident led to her left leg needing to be amputated at the knee.
I had a phone call to come quickly because Natalie had an accident. She's on the corner of the street.
I was on my way from training to school when I had my motorbike accident. So I was approaching a stop street when a girl took a shortcut through a parking lot and drove into me.
So I was there in a few minutes' time, and Natalie was lying on the ground. I could see that the leg was finished in pieces. And then Natalie was calming the people around her. Hey, nothing happened. Come on, make no problem, and I am all right. So Natalie was absolutely strong. I never saw something like that. Then I saw the problem was much bigger than that, and the ambulance came and they took Natalie to the hospital. But it was incredible strong, this girl, when the 17-year-old girl was calming the people. Don't worry, you understand?
I remember him coming to visit me in hospital, and the minute I got out of hospital, he just said to me, Natalie, we're going to get back to what you know, and what you know is swimming. And, let's see what we can do.
I said, come, Natalie, you come, you start swimming again with me. And I never think that we have only one leg. And I think that was the key in our relationship, that I accepted her like before. And Natalie on the hospital bed, when I told her, you start swimming again like before, I just saw the spark in the eyes that she got the life back.
So the minute my scars had healed enough, I was able to get back in the water. And I remember the doctor actually that day said to me, I can get back in. And that day I went to the training pool and got in. I had to basically learn how to swim again so my arms could remember how they should work. I had lost all my muscle. So I had to build everything up again. And I started in the first lane against the wall. And, you know, it took time. It took a lot of time, a lot of hard work. I remember, you know, Crowley taking me aside and making me put my hands up against the wall and kicking and, you know, trying to show me to do A, B, or C.
The first month, I should say, was a disaster. We had to adapt. We have to adapt for this movement. But she was stronger, and I knew that Natalie is strong enough. And I did believe in her ability, you understand? And after a few months, she adapted, and she started beating the guys again on butterfly and crawl with one leg. And that was a good sign. Then I knew now Natalie is back.
I remember, you know, kicking. I had to try and keep up with everybody with one leg. I started with a flipper and then eventually took the flipper off and was keeping up with them without a flipper. At the same time, my leg actually was sore when I did the tumble turn. And it was a bit strange because it felt like I was putting both feet on the wall, but there was only one foot. And so your body naturally adjusts at the same time as I think you have to still build up what you have and what you're good at.
Moving to para events, the long-distance swimmer needed to learn new sprint distances and focus on different strokes.
I was still a part of me, but not at the level that I was at. And so, you know, that also keeps one going. And having to become a freestyler, I was never really a freestyler, but for the open water, for the long distance, there is only freestyle. So I had to become this freestyler. And, you know, it is, again, something that the coach believed in and takes you through it.
I never had an experience like that, so I couldn't predict is that working or not working. But I did believe in that Natalie, with her strong personality, she can make the impossible happen. The impossible doesn't exist.
Perseverance is a key narrative in all our firsts. But for Rose, this went way beyond the struggles of your typical athlete. For her, it was a day-to-day battle to adapt to her new life, and soon the role of carer too.
In 2008, my parents went back to South Sudan, where they live some of my younger siblings. You know, I'm the elder one. I was the one taking care of my younger sibling and going to school at the same time. I find it like, you know, hard.
Despite being a student and caregiver, she still found the time to compete, even though she lacked the basics.
You know, I get used to run barefooted. I feel like it's light for me, but when I use the shoes, it's kind of heavy. You know, you have not get used to the training shoes. You have to get an injury. Sometimes the shoes can't even fit you. You don't know even your number. They ask you time. You don't know what is time. You just run as long as you run.
Rose received her first pair of running shoes less than a year before her Olympic debut. And unlike Natalie and Nicola, who were used to training, the new shoes meant a new way of life for Rose.
The training was hard. I wouldn't say no, because for us, we just wait for running, competition only. That is the time you run. You don't know whether you have to train, you have to do nothing. I was like, am I supposed to kill myself or what? No, I need to go back. I need to go back to Kakuma refugee. I have to, I have to disturb my coach. And my coach was like, Rose, you can be a good runner, but you're so stubborn. I say, I'm not stubborn. I'm not get used to this. I miss my family. I miss my friend. I need to be a Kakuma refugee camp.
Rosie's coach convinced her to stay at the training camp, in part because he was aware of an emerging possibility that would change her life forever. The chance to compete as part of a new refugee team at the Olympic Games Rio 2016. Remaining in Kenya's Great Rift Valley, battling the Ngong Hills, Rose persisted with training, with a little help.
You know, in Nairobi, Kenya, we have so many great athletes. They are our mentors, and we normally used to train with them together. They have track and field. They have road. We have to train. We go for a long run. Sometimes we call it a long run for 1 hour, 45 minutes, depend on the distance. I didn't know I could run 800, but through the coach, the help of coach, they will identify, this person can run this event. This person can run this event. We have Sudan, we have Rwanda, we have Congo, we have South Sudan. So the majority were from my country, South Sudan. For me, I didn't know how to stand on a lane. They say, be here and follow this and join. 800, they have to join after the cons. So after this, you have to go and, okay. I say, okay. And then what next after that? You have to run 2 laps and you're done. Okay. So our training took 8 months. And then we have to do trials. And the first thing in sport, it's discipline. If they say, let's go for train, you have to go. I know it's hard, but you have to go. And the only thing is okay. For me, I was patient. I give myself 8 months.
With patience and good measure and homesickness put on ice, Rose did make the team, bringing in a whole new challenge.
For me, I was kind of nervous because they told us the plane will took maybe 2 days or some hours, 15 hours, and then we have to connect the flight.
We asked you to keep your seatbelt fastened while the seatbelt sign is on and feel comfortable.
Then they will scare you. We are going to the big plane, and that was the first time. I don't know how does it feel like. What if it shakes? You have that mentality of how about the turbulence and all these things. What if I fall down,
Rosie's 8-month training regime would have felt like a luxury to Sarah Attar, who 4 years earlier in California was preparing for her first marathon with no idea of what was on the horizon.
Big Sur Marathon was in April of 2012, and my run in the London Olympics was in August. So in that span of time is when I learned that I was going to be going to the Olympics.
4 months to prepare for what most athletes focus on for 4 years, with no more than talk about female athletes attending the Olympic Games from Saudi Arabia at this stage. A 19-year-old Sarah Attar had only just submitted times, but knew they were outside the qualification target. Then, Sarah got a phone call from her dad that would change her life forever.
I remember when he first told me that there was talk of Saudi Arabia sending women athletes and I was being considered. I asked which Olympics. In my head, it couldn't be the one in a few months. That felt insane. It was totally as random as anyone just going to college, doing their thing, running for fun and because they loved it and, qualifying for Boston, but not trying to qualify for the Olympics. I thought it was awesome, though, that Saudi Arabia is sending female athletes. That's huge. That's great. And thinking that I would play a role in that was almost hard to even grasp at that time. There was no way for me to comprehend where it would lead exactly. I had an idea, knew it was going to be big, but to put me in that position was I don't know, definitely surreal.
As the gravity of the situation kicked in, the news broke.
It getting announced was kind of crazy. I think it first broke the news. I don't remember what day, but it was early in the morning, a normal kind of type of press release. And within an hour of it being first published, we had all kinds of media outlets calling our home phone. They were calling, somehow found the number of my high school coach to call. It was kind of crazy how much the phone was ringing and who was calling. And it was all kinds of media outlets, all the big ones, international, everyone.
Saudi Arabia has confirmed it will be sending female athletes.
The Olympics Committee announced today Saudi Arabia will be sending Sarah Attar as one of the first female...
It was in that day that kind of had this feeling of, whoa, this is really big. Obviously, I knew that, but it was things like this that made it more tangible, that it was happening, that it was real, that it was progressing forward, and that it was a really big deal.
When thinking of the hard yards it takes to be a first, we're transported to hours in the gym, the endless miles on the road, length after agonising length in the pool. But for many, it's dealing with the dark side of the limelight.
Everyone had a lot to say about it, right? As the internet goes, I learned very quickly to not read comments on articles and not to read stuff because it was just so everyone had all kinds of opinions. People are making stuff up about me that's not true. People are trying to dissect my whole life and where I grew up and what my fastest times are in track and, just really dissecting all these parts of my life. And, like anything new and that different, it kind of changes the status quo. And I think that's where it's challenging for some people to confront that shift, right? A shift of the narrative, a shift of what's always been. So it was definitely controversial at first too, which I don't know if I necessarily anticipated that, or I just wasn't sure. I didn't know what I was getting into. I knew it was really big. I knew that I felt it was very important. And so it was also really challenging that some people didn't feel that way. But over time, I definitely learned very quickly and at a young age, how chaotic the internet can be and how I really just needed to have space from it and not pay much attention to it because I knew what I needed to do and what my task was at hand. It also really taught me the importance of speaking for myself and telling my story, because if I don't share it, someone's going to share it and make up stuff potentially, or they're going to fill in the gaps of information that they don't have.
In the brief window before the Olympic Games and deep in marathon training, Sarah Attar needed a sudden change. She needed to learn to run a distance she wasn't used to.
I'd only raced one 800 in high school. And I remember, my high school coach, he wanted us to try each distance event. So the 800, the mile, the 2 mile. And I was just so set on the 2 mile. And so I did the 800 once. And I'm pretty sure I told him, I was never doing that again. Glad I tried it, And then here I am. I'm okay, so I'm about to run an 800 on the world stage. Cool.
In the next episode of The Green Room, Bigger Questions, we explore the special moments that made these firsts.
If you don't believe it, then we just wash our hands and we walk away.
Crazy lights and sound and color.
Russia rolled up with their world champions. This is all I need for my first tournament back.
To listen to more episodes of this series, or to find regular episodes of The Green Room, where we explore the topics that matter most in business, search The Green Room by Deloitte, wherever you get your podcasts, or find us on YouTube at Deloitte UK.